A love that turns staying into a choice, not a fear, begins quietly. It doesn't announce itself with grand promises or dramatic vows. It enters gently, through consistency, through patience, through the steady rhythm of showing up when it would be easier to walk away. This kind of love does not trap you. It does not hold you hostage with guilt, pressure, or the threat of abandonment. Instead, it opens its hands and says, "Stay if you want. I will still be here, honest and real." And in that freedom, something powerful happens. Staying becomes meaningful. Staying becomes sacred. Staying becomes an act of courage rather than survival. Fear-based love is loud. It demands reassurance every moment. It survives on control and anxiety. It keeps score, keeps watch, keeps you on edge. You stay because you're afraid of what will happen if you leave, afraid of loneliness, afraid of judgment, afraid of being unchosen again. But love that turns staying into a choice dissolves that fear. It doesn't need to convince you. It doesn't chase you into corners. It trusts that if you are nourished, if you are respected, if you are seen, you will remain not because you have to, but because you want to. This love understands that freedom is not the enemy of commitment. Freedom is its foundation. When someone knows they are free to leave and still chooses to stay, that choice carries a depth that fear can never produce. It says, "I am here because my heart is here." Not because of obligation. Not because of manipulation. Not because of silent threats disguised as devotion. Just presence, honest and willing. A love like this listens more than it accuses. It asks questions instead of making assumptions. It creates space for silence without interpreting it as rejection. It allows distance without turning it into punishment. In this love, you are not constantly proving your worth. You are not auditioning for affection. You are not walking on emotional glass. You are allowed to be human, allowed to be tired, allowed to be unsure. And instead of being met with withdrawal or coldness, you are met with understanding. Staying becomes easier when love feels safe. Safety does not mean perfection. It means predictability in care. It means knowing that disagreements won't turn into emotional warfare. It means knowing that mistakes won't be used as weapons later. It means knowing that your vulnerability will not be mocked, dismissed, or stored away for future arguments. When love feels safe, your nervous system relaxes. Your heart opens naturally. You stop bracing for impact and start leaning in. This kind of love does not rush you. It respects timing. It knows that real connection cannot be forced. It does not measure progress by speed but by depth. It allows growth to unfold instead of demanding immediate transformation. It understands that people carry histories, wounds, and fears that cannot be erased by intensity alone. So it stays steady. And in that steadiness, fear slowly loosens its grip. A love that turns staying into a choice does not make you smaller to keep you close. It does not dim your light to feel secure. It celebrates your expansion, even when that expansion challenges it. It wants you whole, not dependent. Strong, not controlled. Confident, not confined. This love knows that two complete people choosing each other is far more powerful than two broken people clinging out of fear. You feel this love in the way it speaks to you during conflict. Not with cruelty. Not with threats. But with firmness wrapped in care. You feel it in apologies that are real, not strategic. In accountability that does not come with excuses. In changed behavior, not just repeated promises. This love understands that words matter, but actions are what build trust. So it shows you, again and again, that staying is safe. When love is healthy, it does not keep you guessing. You are not decoding mixed signals or reading between lines. Clarity replaces confusion. Consistency replaces chaos. You are not addicted to the highs and lows because there are fewer extremes. Instead of intensity, there is intimacy. Instead of drama, there is depth. And while it may feel unfamiliar at first, especially if you are used to fear-based connections, it slowly becomes grounding. A love that invites you to stay by choice allows you to breathe. You don't feel like you're constantly about to lose everything. You don't live in a state of emotional emergency. You can focus on building, dreaming, becoming. Your energy is no longer spent on self-protection but on connection. And that shift changes everything. This love teaches you that commitment is not about chains. It's about alignment. It's about two people repeatedly choosing each other even when life is heavy. Even when feelings fluctuate, even when circumstances change. It acknowledges that love is not a constant feeling but a conscious decision. And because that decision is freely made, it carries weight and beauty. Fear tells you that if you don't hold on tightly, everything will disappear. Love tells you that what is real will not run from honesty, space, or truth. Fear makes you grip. Love invites you to trust. And trust transforms staying into something voluntary, something proud, something deeply personal. In a love like this, leaving is not used as a threat. Staying is not used as leverage. Both people know they are there because they want to be. That mutual awareness creates respect. It creates gratitude. It creates a sense of I choose you today, not just once, but again and again. You begin to notice how different your inner dialogue becomes. You no longer ask, what if they leave? But how can we grow? You no longer wonder, am I too much? But feel, I am accepted. You no longer fear honesty because honesty does not cost you connection. Instead, it deepens it. A love that turns staying into a choice honors individuality. It does not demand that you abandon yourself to belong. It encourages you to stay connected to your values, your passions, your sense of self. It knows that losing yourself is not love, it's erosion. Real love wants you rooted, not erased. This kind of love also understands impermanence. It knows that people change, seasons shift, and life is unpredictable. Yet it does not cling in panic. It adapts. It communicates. It renegotiates. It does the work. And when staying happens within that awareness, it becomes intentional rather than automatic. There is strength in choosing to stay when you could leave. There is depth in remaining when you are not bound by fear. There is honor in commitment that is renewed freely. And there is profound peace in knowing that someone is with you not because they are scared to lose you, but because they genuinely want you. This love does not rush to fill every silence. It is comfortable in stillness. It knows that presence is not measured by noise. Sometimes, staying looks like quiet companionship. Sometimes, it looks like holding space. Sometimes, it looks like stepping back so the other can breathe. And all of it is valid. A love like this heals without trying to fix. It supports without smothering. It stays without imprisoning. It understands that the deepest form of loyalty is not obligation but willingness. And that willingness is felt in the smallest moments, the way someone listens, the way they remember, the way they choose kindness even when it would be easier to withdraw. Over time, you realize that fear no longer drives your decisions. You don't stay because you're afraid of being alone. You stay because the connection adds meaning to your life. You stay because it feels aligned. You stay because love feels like a place you can rest, not a storm you must survive. This is the love that redefines commitment. Not as sacrifice that drains you, but as devotion that nourishes you. Not as endurance, but as participation. Not as obligation, but as choice. And once you experience it, you understand why fear-based love never truly satisfied you. It kept you alive, but it didn't let you live. A love that turns staying into a choice invites your whole self. Your doubts. Your dreams. Your flaws. Your growth. It doesn't demand perfection to remain. It only asks for honesty, effort, and presence. And in return, it gives you something rare, the freedom to stay without fear, and in that freedom, love becomes deeper, truer, and infinitely more powerful. As this love deepens, you start to recognize how unfamiliar peace once felt to you. At first, calm may have seemed boring, even suspicious. You might have waited for the other shoe to drop, for the sudden shift in tone, for the withdrawal that used to follow closeness. But this love stays steady. It doesn't punish you for relaxing. It doesn't disappear when you stop performing. And slowly, you learn that peace is not the absence of passion, it is the presence of security. A love that makes staying a choice teaches you how to trust again, not through force, but through repetition. Trust is rebuilt in the small moments, when someone keeps their word, when they show up on ordinary days, when they remain emotionally available even when life is inconvenient. These moments don't feel dramatic, but they are revolutionary. They rewire the parts of you that learn to associate love with instability. In this love, you are not afraid to express needs. You don't minimize yourself to avoid conflict. You don't silence your feelings to keep the peace. Your needs are not treated as burdens. They are treated as information, something to understand, not something to resent. And when you are met this way, you realize how much energy you once spent just trying to be easy to love. Staying becomes a choice when you feel respected even in disagreement. This love understands that conflict is not a threat, it is a conversation. It does not escalate to win. It de-escalates to understand. It knows that raising your voice does not strengthen your point, and shutting down does not protect the relationship. So it stays present, even when emotions are heavy. A love like this doesn't require you to shrink your truth. You don't have to soften your honesty until it loses meaning. You are allowed to say, "This hurt me," without being accused of attacking. You are allowed to say, "I need more," without being told you are ungrateful. In this love, truth is welcomed because it keeps the connection real. Fear-based love often confuses attachment with closeness. But this love knows the difference. It allows independence without interpreting it as distance. It supports your growth without feeling threatened by it. When you pursue your own healing, dreams, or goals, it doesn't pull you back, it stands beside you. And because of that, staying feels expansive, not limiting. You begin to understand that real commitment is not proven by how much pain you tolerate. It's proven by how well you protect the relationship from unnecessary harm. This love does not romanticize suffering. It does not ask you to endure emotional neglect in the name of loyalty. It believes that love should make life lighter, not heavier. In this space, you are not addicted to reassurance because consistency has replaced anxiety. You don't need constant validation because your value is not constantly questioned. Love doesn't feel like something you could lose at any moment. It feels like something being built, layer by layer, through mutual care. A love that turns staying into a choice also teaches accountability. It doesn't avoid responsibility when mistakes happen. It doesn't hide behind pride. When something goes wrong, it looks inward before pointing outward. It understands that repair is more important than being right. And because repair is possible, trust becomes resilient. You stop confusing intensity with intimacy. You realize that real intimacy is not chaos, it's closeness. It's being known without fear. It's being seen without armor. It's allowing someone access to your inner world and knowing they will treat it gently. This kind of intimacy doesn't exhaust you. It restores you. Staying becomes a daily, quiet decision. Not a dramatic declaration, but a calm commitment. You wake up and choose each other again, not because you're afraid to start over, but because this connection feels worth nurturing. It feels aligned with who you are becoming, not who you were when you were wounded. This love also allows endings to be honest if they ever come. Because staying is a choice, leaving is not a betrayal, it is a truth. And while that may sound frightening, it is actually freeing. It means love is not maintained by fear, but by authenticity. And authenticity is the strongest foundation any relationship can have. When you are loved this way, you stop chasing proof. You don't need grand gestures to feel secure. The consistency speaks for itself. The respect speaks for itself. The effort speaks for itself. And in that quiet assurance, your heart finally rests. You realize that love was never meant to feel like a test you could fail at any moment. It was meant to feel like a partnership you grow into. A place where both people are learning, adjusting, choosing, again and again, not because they are trapped, but because they are aligned. This is the love that changes how you show up everywhere else in life. When you are not surviving emotionally, you start thriving creatively, mentally, spiritually. You become more patient, more grounded, more open. Love stops draining you and starts strengthening you. And perhaps the most beautiful part is this: when staying is a choice, gratitude replaces fear. You don't stay out of panic. You stay out of appreciation. You stay because you see the value, the effort, the care. You stay because love feels like a place you want to return to, not a place you're scared to leave. This is how love becomes mature. Not by controlling outcomes, but by honoring freedom. Not by clinging, but by choosing. Not by fear, but by faith, in each other, and in the connection you are building together. In the final unfolding of this love, you begin to notice a quiet strength forming inside you. Not the kind that braces for loss, but the kind that trusts itself to survive change. A love that turns staying into a choice does not promise permanence at the cost of truth. Instead, it offers presence with integrity. And that presence teaches you something deeper than attachment. It teaches you self-respect. You no longer abandon yourself to keep someone else comfortable. You no longer negotiate your boundaries just to feel chosen. This love does not ask you to disappear inside it. It asks you to arrive fully. And because you are allowed to be whole, staying feels like alignment, not compromise. In this space, love becomes less about possession and more about participation. Two people actively showing up, not perfectly, but honestly. You stop measuring love by how much someone fears losing you and start measuring it by how well they care for you while they have you. This shift changes everything. It replaces insecurity with intention. A love like this understands that loyalty is not silence. Loyalty is truth spoken with care. It is choosing repair over avoidance. It is staying emotionally present even when things are uncomfortable. And because both people understand this, the relationship becomes a place of growth rather than stagnation. Staying becomes powerful because it is renewed, not assumed. No one is taken for granted. No one is held captive by expectation. Gratitude flows naturally when choice is honored. Every "I'm still here" carries meaning because it was never forced. You also begin to forgive yourself for the times you stayed out of fear in the past. You see that you were surviving with the tools you had. This love does not shame your history. It integrates it. It allows you to rewrite the story without erasing the lessons. And in that compassion, healing deepens. A love that invites you to stay freely also invites you to leave patterns that no longer serve you. You stop chasing emotionally unavailable people. You stop confusing inconsistency with mystery. You stop believing that love must hurt to be real. Your standards rise quietly, not out of arrogance, but out of clarity. You become more intentional with your energy. You choose relationships, romantic or otherwise, that feel mutual, respectful, and nourishing. You recognize that fear-based bonds drain you, while choice-based bonds strengthen you. And that awareness becomes a form of self-love. This love also changes how you pray, hope, or dream. You stop begging for love to stay. You start asking for love that chooses you willingly. Love that meets you in the middle. Love that doesn't require you to lose yourself to be kept. And when that love arrives, it feels familiar in the best way. Not because it repeats old wounds, but because it feels true. You learn that staying is not the highest virtue, integrity is. And integrity sometimes means staying, sometimes means leaving, but always means honoring truth. A love that respects this never needs to manipulate you into remaining. It trusts that if the connection is healthy, staying will happen naturally. Over time, fear loosens its grip completely. You no longer stay because you're afraid of starting over. You stay because starting here, again each day, feels meaningful. You stay because love feels like a shared path, not a cage. This is where love matures into something sacred. Not dramatic, not performative, not loud, but deeply rooted. It doesn't need to prove itself. It simply exists, steady and real. And in that reality, you find peace. A love that turns staying into a choice leaves you freer than you were before you entered it. Freer to speak. Freer to grow. Freer to be. And that freedom does not weaken commitment, it strengthens it, because the most powerful promise two people can make is not "I'll never leave," but "I choose to be here, honestly, today." And when that choice is made again and again, without fear, love becomes not just something you feel, but something you live. And in the end, you understand this truth clearly: love was never meant to trap you. It was meant to invite you.